I grew up watching movies, and I don't call them films. We watched movies, and my dad didn't have many friends, I guess, so I was his movie buddy. We didn't go fishing, we didn't go hunting. We watched movies, and we lived over in Colony West, and Breckenridge, when it was in the parking lot of what the theater is now. We'd go every week, and I could open the paper up any week and have seen every film usually twice. Ratings didn't matter. My dad took me to see Pale Rider in first grade in the theater, and Clint Eastwood shoots everybody in the head. It didn't bother me at all. This one girl's dog gets, I think, trampled by some cows, and that really bothered me. But, it just, we'd go see these movies, we'd talk about them, and that was my education. I didn't know it at the time because it's just fun, but I just genuinely enjoyed movies. And I think, it was in the mid to late 90s when I was coming up out of high school. The film school was kind of a cool thing to do. I think they were popping up a few more places, and it was like, yeah, I'll go to film school. I had no concept of what that meant. I'd never been on a film set before, and it's just fortunate that I ended up going to film school, to a good film school that actually let me make movies, which is rare, and realized that I liked what it was. I liked the process because it's a very unique process and kind of not at all what you might expect. And so, I enjoyed it, and I had a knack for it. I saw even through making short films in college, you could burn people, you could burn places, certainly locations, just by showing up and just not behaving correctly. And once you burn a person or burn a location, it's dead. And it's dead for whoever comes after you. And I think as Arkansas starts to build its film community, we need to keep that in mind. And because as a filmmaker, you kind of owe it to the people that are going to come after you to protect this community. And one thing I was very clear about was that this was not a lottery ticket. Everybody I talked to about Shotgun Stories, I said, if you're giving me money, you're giving me money. Don't expect it back. I think we had a little layout of if money ever came back, in the event that lightning struck and we made millions. That of course didn't happen, so I never had to worry about that. But I think one of the main things you have to do is just be really straightforward with people. I think so many people want to say, look, this could make millions, we could be rich. I think that's the wrong reason for making movies, number one, and I just think it's a lie. And if yours happens to be one of those movies that breaks through, great, but and then worry about those problems that will bring. But I try not to rope people in with that lottery ticket mentality. I think coming from Arkansas, for me, there were natural barriers to accepting the role as a filmmaker. It just sounded silly because people don't do this very often. And for me, I think getting into film school was kind of the first one. It was like, okay. And the way that program was set up, after 2 years of taking classes in everything, directing, screenwriting, editing, cinematography, you would pick a concentration. And only a few people got to be directors, And I remember telling my oldest brother, Ben, my first year of film school, I was like, if I call you in 2 years and I'm in the directing program, that means something. And luckily I did get into that directing program. And so getting into film school, then getting into that directing program, both of those were as maybe silly as it seems now looking back on that. To me, those were really important milestones. I was working in Austin when I first got there on some reality TV show, and they had brought in an LA writer, some screenwriter, to come in to write plot lines for the reality TV show. And I'd picked him up from the airport or something, and we were talking, and I was like, yes, I'm a writer. I was that kid in the car driving the important person. And, oh, well, kid, you got to go to L.A. You got to go to L.A. And I just remember thinking, man, that guy's got to be wrong. I'd been thinking about mud since college, and I'd been, writing bits and pieces of it for more than a decade. And it just always took place here, I was walking through the Little Rock Public Library, and I found a book called The Last River, which was published by the University of Arkansas Press. And it was a photographic essay, black and white photos of people who made a living off of the lower White River, Arkansas, and Mississippi rivers. And there was a guy with a homemade diving helmet made out of a hot water heater. There were commercial fishermen. There were guys staying on these houseboats. And I literally just looked at this book and was like, this is a part of my home state that I don't know. Right now, I'm actually, I'm just trying to have as much fun as I possibly can with it. And write things that I really, really want to see. With Shotgun Stories, I made that film, or I wrote that film to be made for the money that we had. I would put everything outside, everything in natural light, because I knew we wouldn't have time or money to execute it any other way. Same with even Take Shelter in those effects. Like, there wasn't a lot of character interaction with the effects that were going on because that's expensive. I knew it could be, matte paintings and other things, but I've taken the gloves off a little bit, and now I'm ready, I think, to exercise all the things I've learned in these last 3 films. I feel like these 3 films, you've been watching my education as a filmmaker. I've learned movement, I've learned light, I've learned character and structure, and now I'm ready to just take advantage of all that. And I don't know where it goes from here, but I'm excited about it.